Hello and welcome. My name is Tom and I'm a beginner. This channel will be used alongside a GitHub repo to document my learning. So if you're a complete beginner, I hope you enjoy and we can learn together. If you're anything but a beginner, you will know everything about to try and figure out. I will explain my thought process and show my code as I'm going. Suggestions on how to improve both the video and the coding are both welcome in the comments. I'll do my best to take everything on board. An important note for this series, I will not be getting AI to code or debug anything, but I may ask it for help. For instance, ideas on how to complete a task or where I can find useful information and resources. Today, I'll be trying to extract useful information from a dataset which I found on Kaggle. A link will be below in the description. This dataset has information on different Netflix shows and movies, including type, title, duration, and rating, but I can't do anything with it while it's here, so the first step is to get it into Visual Studio Code, which is the code editor I'll be using. So I'm going to press download up, no, press download up here, wait for it to download, and then in my file directory I'm going to drag and drop it into the project directory. So now I've added it to the project directory, I need to open up VS Code, and yes, as we can see, it has been added successfully. But it's a bit difficult to get any useful information out of it in this form, so we need to organize it somehow. For my development, I'm going to be using Jupyter Notebooks. It's just a personal preference. I like being able to run the code in sections. So now that I'm set up, onto the main task. The goal of today is, given data, I need to put it into a table and find as much useful information as possible. Looking through the CSV, there is far too much to sort manually. So I need to sort through it somehow and find methods of getting values relating to specific examples. That's how I'm going to find useful information. When talking about these topics, a few libraries are commonly thrown around, such as pandas and NumPy, so I'm going to start by looking at the documentation for these. So first I'm going to start with pandas. So pandas documentation. Getting started, and I'm hoping to just find some information that will tell us what the library is used for. This is a bit hard to see in the dark mode. So when working with tabular data, such as data stored in spreadsheets or databases, pandas right off view. Okay, so it does put it into a table like we're looking for, or it can be used to put it into a table like we're looking for. An input format is a CSV. So you can filter data based on conditions. Okay, and there's added for like plotting data and graphs. Okay, built-in statistic functions, that's good. Multiple tables. Okay, so just quickly reading through the documentation, pandas looks like a strong contender. However, the first presented solution is not often the best one, so I'm also going to check out NumPy and then Google to find any other suggested libraries. So NumPy documentation. Again, getting started because I'm just trying to work out what it's used for. NumPy is an open source Python library used in science and engineering. Contains multi-dimensional array data structures. Large library functions operate efficiently on these data structures. So just from reading that, it sounds like this is used to perform, well, operations on the data more than sourcing and filtering through it. But let's keep reading. Why use NumPy? Data variety of types. Okay, so it looks like NumPy is more used for dealing with multi-dimensional arrays, um, which is not as applicable to what I'm wanting to do as pandas is, but it's good to know. Reading through this, it looks like some of the features are all the uh, fields have to be of the same type, which is not going to be suitable for the dataset I looked at earlier. As we've got like movie title, which is going to be a string, and then duration, which I think is an integer, but I'll check that later. Yeah, it looks like it's more used for applying conditions on large amounts of data, not sorting through it. So now I've exhausted what I know on the topic. I'm now going to Google and look for other solutions. So now I'm going to look for other Python library for data science, and I'm going to check out Geek for Geek because they generally have some pretty good things. So Python libraries for data science manipulation, NumPy, pandas, Dask, open source Python libraries, scale, quantification, and large data sets. Provides dynamic parameters. Yeah, I don't think that really applies here. Fast data manipulation, especially when dealing with massive data sets, unlike traditional libraries like pandas. This focuses on agricultural data personalization and billions of. So I think that one might be worth looking into. Let's keep looking. So now this isn't data visualization, which is not really what I'm looking for. Machine learning, no. So I think it does just stop up here. Okay, so similar to pandas, can visualize and explore. I think either, I'm not sure how you pronounce this, Vakes or pandas would work fine here. I'm personally going to go with pandas because I've heard of it before, so I assume there's going to be more online help when I get stuck. So I'll stop. So now I've decided on I'm going to be using pandas. I'm going to get the documentation for pandas back up again. So pandas documentation. Uh, so really here I'm looking for the list of commands or functions that can be used. User's guide. Here you go. So I guess the first thing I'm going to need is to read the data from the CSV into a table. I don't know how to do that, so how to read data from CSV into table using pandas. So obviously you got to import the module first. Oh, and there's a function called read CSV, and then your file name, and then you can print it. So let's get VS Code back up. I'm going to add a cell for Jupyter Notebooks. The first thing we've got to do is import pandas. And if you haven't already got this installed to your probably have to pip install it as PD, which I might not do looking at the syntax highlighting, but run. That's not what I was looking for. Python environment 3.1.1. Okay, so it looks like now it registers, so try running it again. And that one's done. So adding another cell, it was DF, which I guess stands for data frame. Does it say? Okay, I think that stands for data frame equals pandas.readcsv. Oh. And then it was just the file name, netflix.csv. So now if we print that, print data frame and run it. Okay, this wasn't exactly what I was expecting. I was hoping to get a nice looking table. Okay, maybe it's because there are too many rows, because this clearly goes from 0 to 8,806. So is there a way to limit the number of rows? Max rows. How to display the first 3 rows in pandas. Okay, so there's a head method. Parameter n will give you the first n rows. Okay, that sounds easy enough. So print df dot head. We'll go for 5. Alright, that's not fixed the problem. So we still, okay, but now we have the first 5 rows. And it looks like they're broken across multiple lines. Okay, maybe you're not meant to print it, maybe you're meant to do something else. So let's look how to display. Oh, there we go, data frame in Python. Oh, there's a function called display, right. Let's try that instead. Display, yep. Okay, that looks a lot nicer. So we've got the ID, type, title, director, and so on. Are there any more? Ooh. No, I don't think so. So here I can just look in the CSV and if I scroll all the way to the top, I can see the column names, but I doubt this is always going to be possible, so I should probably look up how to find the column names without just checking the file. So let's get rid of that one. How to get column names in pandas. Okay, so it looks like you take your original data frame and then just put dot columns. So back to Visual Studio Code, I'll add a new cell. Columns equals df dot columns, and then I guess I'll display it instead of print. Display columns. Okay, yeah, and then it's printed them below. So that's quite a useful function to know. So now I've actually got this in a table that I can read. Can I tell it anything about the data or problems that might occur later? Okay, so it looks like we have both movies and TV shows, and then we've got a duration of 90 minutes and 2 seasons, which obviously is a bit of a difference because the units are different. There's no way to just convert between them. So I suppose if I want to analyze them, I'm going to have to do it separately if I'm using the duration for it. So I wonder if there's a way to filter and display only where the type is movie. Yeah, I think that's what I'm going to do next. Oh, sorry, up there. Can I move that? Yeah, I can. Nice. So back to Google. How to filter. Okay, so there's a dot filter function. Not entirely sure what array expression. Like in label. Interesting. I don't know how it determines that. I was more looking for just a match if they're the same. We'll try somewhere else. So in this case we have a filtered data frame. Okay, so if the df prefix is data frame, then it looks like to create a filtered version you make another data frame. Okay, so here df pandas equals data frame dot data, we set it originally, and then it looks like we make a okay, so I'm going to say this is the column called age, and if it's bigger than 30, then it will create a data frame in the filtered data frame that's then displayed. So let's take that principle and try and do the same with movies and TV shows. So what was actually, it was data frame. So we already established our initial data frame up here, and then it's a filtered data frame, so we'll put filtered by movies data frame equals data frame, and then what was it, the type, which is going to be a string, so type, and is that case sensitive? Yeah, it's lowercase. Type equals movie. So now if I display this data frame instead with a head of 5, no, we'll go for 10, see if there's anything else we can spot. Okay, nice, it worked. So in Alice, like all of these are movies. So now we've isolated just the movies. I wonder if there's a way we can work out, obviously for a list that is this short and just has 10 items, we can just look and see it's um, this movie has a duration of 161 minutes. But if this list was hundreds of items long, I wouldn't really want to look through the whole thing to find the longest movie. So I wonder if there's another method that will help us find it. What else could we want to know? Maybe the average time of the movies could be useful. So see if we can find the average time, longest duration, and while there, we may as well try to find the shortest duration as well. So back to Google to find the okay, this looks promising. Let's see how this works. Import pandas, data. Okay, I wonder what would happen here. Would it return 18? No, sorry, would it return 20 or would it return the highest sum of the values? Returns the maximum value for each row. Okay, I'm not sure if that's gonna work, so finally. No, it says the max function again, so maybe it is. Find the column name. I want the row name that contains the column with the max value. So what we got here, we got tuples, the matrix, which is the list of tuples, index, ABCD, columns, XYZ. Okay. Find the maximum values in columns and rows. Here we go. So it is the max function. Okay, so abc.max returns these values. Returns 89. Is this gonna work if... Hang on, let's check. Okay, so duration looks like it's actually a string, so I'm not sure if it'll work, but I can try anyway. So, Ucode, what did they do? Find the maximum value of each column. Find the maximum value of a single column. Okay. Now, does that give you the value or the column? Or the value or the row that the value's in? So it looks like it gives you the value. Let's try this and see if it works with the duration, because I think the duration might be a string. So that's going to be the column name. Was it the column name? Yeah. Here's a data frame, and then we'll go for duration. Top max. Display max. And we'll run it. And we've got an error. Okay. Okay, yeah, as expected, it's because it's a string. So, what if we try to do it on release here instead? And that'll tell us when the last movie or series was added. But in this case, oh no, it will be movie or series. So, release date. Let's release year. Alright, let's try on this again. 2021. Which is actually going to be the newest value from the original table, because I used data frame instead of I used data frame instead of filtered movies. Although if I do it for filtered movies, I should still get 2021 looking at the data. So let's just try it. Filtered movies, and run it again. 2021 still. Okay. So that's the maximum values in this table above. If I now take well, it's maximum, so I assume the opposite is going to be minimum, which when I run it, 1942, which is not actually there. Interesting. So is it still taking the minimum value from the original table? Guess it has to be. Let me just check. No, 1942. Nope. I was expecting 1993. Okay, so can I concatenate the condition with the minimum? So how'd that work? I'm going to copy this below for reference. So oh, hang on a minute. No, so I've only displayed the first 10, but there could be many more. So if I change, okay, I get it. So if I go back and change the head to like 100, or at this point just display and take the head out. There we go. So if I display all the ones, okay, I can't display them all because there's too many, but okay. So it didn't just take the minimum from the header, it took the minimum overall. If I add the header back in, and run again, when it What about them? Oh, there we go. So is it possible to just get the minimum from the first 5? So if I set this to be the header, run it so it'll update below, and now if I run this, 1993, which is the minimum from the table above. So now we've got the maximum and minimum release year, or the most recent and least recent. I'm not sure how applicable or useful it is, but let's see if we can find the average release year next. So Google. Okay, so it looks like it's a mean function. Oh, just dot mean. So let's give that a go. Dot mean. So if this works as expected, I'm predicting it should be a lot closer to 2021 than 1993. So we've got 3 instances and then another instance that's only 1 off. So if we run it, 2015, yeah, I can check that on a calculator, but I believe that's right. And then, so now we've found the max, mean, and min. Every time I did it, I stored in the max. I want to keep a record of how to do each of them. So I'm just gonna create multiple different variables and then display them in an F string. So we got so this one really should be the mean, and then if we copy this and change it to max and min, and then we run dot max and dot min, so an F string with max, min, and mean, where it's mean. I should probably add some spaces. Mean, min, and max. So now we run this, we should get the mean, min, and max. Yep, nice. So now I know how to get the max, min, and mean of the column. That's not very, well, it's not that useful for the release year. I think it'd be more useful for the duration. However, currently the duration is a string, so I need to get rid of the min, which is the unit for minutes, and convert it to an integer instead. So back to Google. How to convert a columns type in pandas. Okay, so database.types. Where's this come from? No, I'm not really sure what they're doing. I'm gonna have to remove the minutes first before I convert it to a string anyway. So how to change a change isn't really specific enough. How to how to filter a column. No, this is what I was looking at earlier, unless there's more below. So I guess filter's not the right word. How to remove? No, it's not going to be remove. Replace values in a column in pandas. Okay, so it looks like here they've replaced the 0 with the 5. So could I replace the minimum with just an empty string or nothing for a column? How do I target a specific column as well? Okay, so from what I've seen, there's no specific built-in function uh, to remove the units minutes, which makes me think I might be able to do a basic string manipulation. So I'm going to try that next. So I'll add a new cell. So we want to change the value in duration. So data frame duration. So if I now run this cell, oh, hang on, I've got to rerun everything. There we go. So now I get, if I display dfhead5 and run again. Okay, so it has taken the minutes off, but what I probably should have done is used the filtered one for just movies instead, so I'm going to do that next. Where are we? Good movies. So now we're on this one. I'm still displaying the data frame, and that should display the filled one. Yeah. So now we've got just the times in minutes without the minutes unit on the end. However, I haven't converted it to an integer, so I'm pretty sure that's still going to be a string. So that's the next thing to do. How to change a column type. So as type and then the data type. Let's look for an example. I assume it's going to be like integer. Okay, int 32. Okay, so that's just as type. So as type int. So let's see if that works. It runs. So I know I'm going to add another code cell and try and do the same thing I did for the max and the min up here with the release year with the duration, because it should now hopefully be integers. So I'm just going to get the max equals fill and then the mean equals mean. Okay, so the filter is still just for the top 5, so that would be the max, mean, and min of these 5. So 127 maximum, 90 minimum, and means 107, which is within expected range. So now I've got that working, I'm going to scroll back up and take out the head from the filter, run it again to apply the update, and then scroll back down. If I run this again, I'm going to get an error. I've got to run this above first. Nope. Cannot convert float to an integer. Okay, so I'm going to guess if I run this one with a greater head, or so let's show the first 100. Some of these could be fractional. They don't appear to be. No, none of them appear to be fractional. So that's setting the filter to just get the movies. And then filtered movies duration. Try that again. No. Is it possible some of them don't have an input duration? Maybe. The problem seems to be with integers. Let's try float instead. I'm starting to think maybe I should have split these into separate commands. Can only use dot string accessor with string values. Right, I've got a problem here because I've run it multiple times. So if I run this again, that will reset the data frame. And then this should reset the filtered version. Right, and then I only want to run this one once, and I take out that. Okay, so that has replaced the min, and now if I add in another cell and try and get the type of duration, I believe it should still be set to string. So print filter movies duration dot type object. Okay, can I now try and convert it to an integer? No. Can I convert float to an integer? Can I convert it to a float? I'm not sure what this means. I'm going to Google it. Okay, yeah, that's fine. I didn't expect it to apply to the original data frame, just this slice. So now if I display, and I also want to check the type, so I'll run this one again. And now the floats, but they don't need to be that big, so let's just set 16, 32, 32. Yeah. So now I come down and try and run the max min and mean. Max mean. Okay. Mean is infinite. Interesting. So this doesn't seem to be working. Which suggests maybe there's another way to cast the column type to an integer, or because I'm pretty sure all the durations are integer values, or that one of them's an infinite value, and that would also explain the mean. So I'm gonna try and find another way. How? Okay, so that recommends the as type method. What were some of the errors I got? I was using slides from data frame, which I know, and that was fine. If I run this again, so that's the data frame, that's going to make the filter, and I'll get rid of the string minimum. What's the error on this line? Yeah, well, it was just a string value then, so that should be fine. If we get the type and then try convert it to int, and get the head and then the type again. So it should be string convert to int, and then int again, object. So I think that's the main problem. So error message. Okay, so there looks to be a way to drop not a number of values. So if I applied that first and then try to convert to integer, it looks like it should work. So that's drop.na. So if I then convert the oh, nope, still got an error. And it's still the same error, so that didn't work. This error is still occurring on the same line. Okay, when I do the string manipulation, if I've Oh, there's going to be a space between the number and the minutes, isn't there? Yeah. So if I then uh, run this one first, and I've tried to change the values, so run that one, then this one. Series says no attribute.strip. Okay. So that's all leading and ending white space. I want to just get rid of all white space. I could probably do it with another replace, but no, I don't want to leave a single space character between the words. Although the numbers shouldn't have a space between them, so if I remove all leading and trailing white space, that should still work. So is dot strip meant to go there? I feel like it's going to give another error. Yep. Okay, let's try the dot string in front. Nice, that seems to have worked. And then if we try running this one again, we get the same value error. Yep. Let's put a new cell in for now. I'm not going to run this one. We'll set up this one again, and then this one, and then let's print what we get in that column. So print duration still type object, but 1990. What's the 067? Oh, that'll be probably the row number. Okay. I saw it said something about a describe method. I don't know what it does. So is it help? Maybe not. to numeric function. Series, which is what we currently have. Okay, this is probably the most useful one, I think. We can convert it to not a number, because then we can use the drop in the function from earlier to then get rid of it if we're trying to calculate the mean. So it looks like to numeric with, where is it? Coerce, was it? Yeah, errors equals coerce, and the first parameter was the list. To numeric's not defined, so I got that wrong. Oh, pd dot numeric. So this again. And then I want the column from the data frame. Right. So the duration, yeah, and errors equals coerce. So now if I then try and get the type of the column, I should get integer or float, hopefully. And some might be not a number, but let's just try, or check what it is first. Oh, we got another error. Data frame has no object to numeric. I'm going to stop recording for a minute and I'll get back to you when I find the error. Right, so I found the error. I read back through the documentation and it turns out I had this as filtered movies when this was actually a function you had to call from pandas. So once I changed that to pandas and run it, I got float64, and then when I run the last cell for maximum and mean, I got expected values. Okay, so now that's working. What else can I find out from the data? Well, we could probably see which the most popularly, or no, which the most produced genre was, if there's a way of counting up how many times like documentary appears in listed in. So I think that's what I'm going to do next. So I want to count the number appears in a column in pandas. There we go. Okay, so it looks like there's just a method called value counts. And again, I'm gonna only apply this to where the movies are. So that's the filtered. But I now want the, what's the name of the column? Listed in, and it was dot value counts. Okay, nice, it worked. However, I've only got like the head and I suppose the tail of the data. It'd be nice to be able to see the data in the middle as well. There's probably a setting to change that globally, but if I change it globally, then when I run, or if I was to just try and display the data set, it might be too large for the computer to handle, so I should probably find a way to locally set it. So how to display full output in pandas. To display all rows in pandas data frame. Okay. Is there a way to set that locally? I should probably have added that to search. So apparently changes the setting. So this looks like it will work and it will display all the rows. However, it will apply it for every data frame after the cell. But I suppose if I then run the reset, it wouldn't make a difference. but there's got to be a better way to do it. With a temporary context, warhead display, thanks. Local scope only. That sounds promising. So with pandas, option context are local to the statement. Nice. I'm going to give that one a go. Copy it for reference because it's longer. So display match resonance. I don't need to worry about the columns or precision, so I can get rid of that. Would I then print the values? Let's try it again. Okay, nice. So this has given us the full data. There's probably a way to group anything that contains drama, because there are repeating categories or like comedies. It is still truncated, but we did get more results. I think that'll do for the first video. Thanks for watching. Leave any recommendations for improvement to the video or the coding down in the comments below. Thanks.